Welcome to Listen and Learn English. Today we have an inspiring story about courage, hope, and dreams coming true. Imagine working every day on a small farm, struggling to make ends meet, while secretly dreaming of building something bigger. That was Raj's life, a farmer with a vision that seemed impossible. At first, everything seemed ordinary. Raj woke before sunrise, tended his crops, and returned home exhausted each evening. But one day, something unexpected happened. A simple opportunity appeared that could change everything he believed about his life. Will he take the risk? Will his dream finally come true? Stay with us to follow Raj's journey, learn new English words, and improve your listening skills as we explore how determination, courage, and hope can transform a life. Raj wiped the sweat from his brow as he looked over the small patch of soil in front of him. The sun was rising slowly over the hills, casting a warm glow on the few rows of vegetables he had planted. Every day felt the same: long hours of work, little rest, and constant worry about the weather and the market prices. He was a farmer, like his father and grandfather before him, but in his heart, Raj knew he wanted more. He wanted to grow, to build something beyond the limits of this tiny village farm. But for now, he was confined to the daily struggles that came with the soil and the seasons. His wife, Annika, appeared at the doorway with a gentle smile. "Raj, breakfast is ready," she said softly, carrying a simple plate of rice and lentils. She had always been his strongest support, encouraging him quietly whenever he shared his dreams. "I hope you don't work too hard today," she added, though she knew he wouldn't listen. Raj smiled at her, grateful for her presence, but his mind was already occupied with plans and possibilities. The tiny farm seemed too small for the ambitions he held in his heart, yet it was all he had for now. Neighbors walked past, greeting him with familiar nods. Some were encouraging, but many shook their heads with doubt. "A farmer can't be a businessman," one elderly man muttered as he passed by. Raj heard it, but he refused to let the words plant seeds of fear in his mind. He had seen other villagers fail when they tried something new, but he felt something different inside, a quiet confidence that maybe, just maybe, he could succeed. The sun warmed his back, and he bent down to examine a sprouting plant, noticing how it struggled but survived. The image reminded him of himself, small, fragile in appearance, yet capable of growth with care and persistence. Raj spent the morning tending to his crops, watering them carefully and removing weeds. His hands were calloused and his back ached, but he felt alive in this work. Every action reminded him of the lessons his father had taught him: patience, persistence, and respect for the land. Yet, unlike his father, Raj also dreamed of opportunity beyond what the soil could offer. He imagined a market stall overflowing with fresh vegetables, or perhaps a small cooperative with other farmers where they could sell directly to buyers for fair prices. These thoughts brought a spark to his eyes that was rare in the early morning routine of his village life. As he worked, Raj reflected on his childhood. He remembered running across these fields as a boy, laughing and playing, while his father taught him the rhythms of planting and harvesting. Life had seemed simple then, almost effortless, yet even as a child, Raj had been curious. He had asked endless questions about how people could earn more, how they could create opportunities, and why some families seemed to prosper while others struggled. His father had always answered carefully, encouraging hard work but cautioning him about dreaming too big. Those lessons stayed with him, shaping the balance between ambition and practicality that he carried now. By midday, the sun was high, and Raj took a short rest under the shade of a tree. He watched a small group of children playing nearby, imagining a future where his own children could live without fear of scarcity or failure. He pictured a home filled with laughter, where he could provide not only food but opportunities. The contrast between the life he currently led, long hours, modest earnings, constant uncertainty, and the life he hoped to build was clear in his mind. Each contrast fueled his desire to find a way forward, a way to transform hope into reality without losing sight of the hard work that had shaped him. The market day was coming, and Raj knew he needed to think strategically. He had a few vegetables ready to sell, but prices often fluctuated, and middlemen took most of the profit. He remembered an article he had read months ago about farmers who sold directly to customers and increased their income significantly. That idea had stayed with him, quietly growing in his mind like one of his well-tended crops. He imagined the challenge, convincing other farmers, managing sales, and taking risks. But the thought also excited him. For the first time, he felt that possibility and action could intersect. Even as he returned to work in the afternoon, Raj's mind wandered to plans he could implement. Maybe he could save enough money from this harvest to invest in better seeds, or rent a small cart to bring his products to a nearby town. Every idea carried risk, but also potential. The contrasts between his cautious neighbors and his own bold thinking were clear. Some would never understand his vision, but that did not matter. The vision was his alone, and he felt a quiet determination settle over him, steady and unshakable. He knew this determination would be the foundation of everything he would attempt in the days to come. By the time the sun began to set, Raj had completed his chores, but his mind remained active. He talked quietly with Annika about possibilities, sharing small details while preserving the larger plan he did not yet reveal. She listened, nodding in encouragement, sensing both excitement and the weight of responsibility he carried. The evening air carried the scent of the fields and the distant river, a reminder of the life that sustained them. Raj felt gratitude for what he had, even as he longed for what could be. This balance of present reality and future ambition set the tone for the journey ahead. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Raj sat outside his small hut, considering the path forward. He knew that building something greater than the farm would not be easy, that many obstacles awaited. Yet, the contrasts of his life, the struggle versus potential, doubt versus hope, simplicity versus ambition, gave his story depth and direction. He felt ready to face challenges, learn from mistakes, and embrace opportunities when they came. The foundation of perseverance, patience, and vision had been laid in this quiet, humble village, and he was prepared to see where it could lead. The days passed quickly, but Raj's challenges grew with each sunrise. His farm yielded only modest crops, and the money he earned barely covered their daily needs. The market trips were always difficult, middlemen offered low prices, and competition was fierce. Raj's neighbors shook their heads whenever they saw him returning with unsold vegetables, whispering, "You will never succeed. Farming is all you can do." Their words stung, but they did not break him. Instead, he used their doubts as fuel. He reminded himself that persistence had always been his strength, and that small failures were steps toward a greater goal. One morning, while delivering vegetables to the market, Raj noticed a notice pinned to the wooden wall of the town hall, a workshop for local farmers, promising new techniques to increase crop yield and connect directly with buyers. His heart leapt with hope. This could be the opportunity I have been waiting for, he thought. He rushed back home, excitement buzzing in every step. He explained the workshop to Annika, who encouraged him to attend. Though he knew it would require time away from the farm, he felt that the knowledge he would gain could transform their future. That evening, he could hardly sleep, thinking about all the possibilities. At the workshop, Raj met a variety of farmers, some skeptical and some hopeful. The instructor spoke about modern farming techniques, better seed varieties, and ways to sell produce directly to towns and cities, bypassing the middlemen. Raj listened carefully, absorbing every detail. The idea of connecting directly with buyers thrilled him. He imagined a small stall in the town square, attracting customers with fresh vegetables and quality produce. But he also knew that implementing this plan would not be simple. There were costs, risks, and the need to convince other farmers to join him or cooperate. He felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. As Raj returned to his village, he tried to explain his ideas to his neighbors. "We could sell directly in the town market," he said, "and earn more money for our families." Some listened politely, but most shook their heads. "It's too risky," said one farmer. "You'll waste your time and lose everything," another warned. Raj's chest tightened, but he refused to give up. He knew that taking risks was the only way to change their circumstances. The contrast between their fear and his determination became clear. He began to understand that vision alone was not enough. Courage and planning would be essential. Raj decided to start small. He selected a few of his best vegetables and calculated the costs to bring them to town himself. Every morning, he loaded his cart and walked several miles, carrying the produce to a market where customers were waiting. The first few days were slow, and he made little money, but he noticed curious faces and repeat customers who appreciated the quality of his produce. These small successes encouraged him. Gradually, he began to learn which products sold best, what prices customers were willing to pay, and how to present his stall attractively. The contrast between his previous struggles and these early achievements filled him with cautious optimism. While Raj focused on his market venture, he also faced problems at home. The farm required constant attention, and he could not afford to neglect the fields. Each evening, he returned exhausted, yet he continued to plan, organize, and experiment. Annika helped as much as she could, tending small parts of the farm and managing household tasks. The family's collective effort allowed Raj to balance the risks of his new business with the daily responsibilities of farming. Emotional tension grew as he juggled these demands, but the promise of success kept him motivated. He realized that every challenge was a lesson, and every lesson strengthened his resolve. One afternoon, a rival farmer approached Raj, sneering. "You think you can do better than us? This town doesn't care about your little farm," he mocked. Raj's face flushed, but he held his ground. "I am learning, and I will find a way," he replied calmly. That encounter reminded him that jealousy and doubt could exist alongside hope. It also reinforced his determination to persevere. knowing that proving success through action mattered more than listening to criticism. He began to strategize carefully, keeping records of sales, observing market trends, and considering partnerships with other trusted farmers who were willing to take calculated risks. Slowly, the village began to notice Raj's efforts. Customers from nearby towns started seeking him out, and the reputation of his produce grew. The contrast between his modest beginnings and the expanding recognition was becoming obvious. At night, Raj often reflected on the journey so far, the struggles, the doubts, the careful planning, and the small victories. Every detail mattered. Each lesson learned was a building block. The excitement of discovery mingled with the fear of failure, creating an emotional tension that kept him alert and determined. He realized that the journey was just as important as the goal itself. By the end of this period, Raj had learned valuable lessons: patience, persistence, risk-taking, and the importance of quality. He had discovered that transformation required more than desire. It demanded action, courage, and careful planning. The small market stall was no longer just a trial. It was a foundation for a bigger venture. He began imagining a network of farmers working together, sharing knowledge and opportunities. This idea sparked curiosity and hope, hinting at the larger successes that could come if he continued along this path. Raj knew that the next phase of his journey would be even more challenging, but also more rewarding. As the sun set on another long day, Raj stood outside his small hut, looking at the fields and the modest market cart waiting in town. The contrasts of his life, the struggles of the farm versus the hope of direct sales, doubt versus determination, were clearer than ever. He felt a quiet pride in what he had achieved so far, but he also sensed that the journey was far from over. The path ahead would require even more courage, innovation, and faith in his vision. And deep in his heart, he knew that this period of discovery and rising tension was preparing him for the moment that could change everything. One morning, Raj woke to find a letter pinned to the door of his hut. His hands trembled slightly as he unfolded it. It was from a buyer in the nearby town, someone who had noticed his fresh vegetables and wanted to place a larger order. The words on the paper seemed almost unreal, like a dream he had been too cautious to imagine. He read them over and over, feeling a mix of joy, disbelief, and fear. Could he meet this demand? Could he finally transform his small efforts into a meaningful business? The contrast between the struggles of the past and this sudden opportunity hit him like a wave, overwhelming him with emotion. Raj shared the letter with Annika, who gasped in excitement. "Raj, this is it! This could really change everything," she said, her eyes sparkling with hope. But she also sensed the weight on his shoulders. They both knew that fulfilling the order would require careful planning, longer hours, and new strategies. Raj's heart raced with a mix of hope and anxiety. He realized that this moment was more than a chance to earn money. It was a test of everything he had learned, a turning point that would decide the path of his future. The next day, Raj began preparing the order. He carefully selected the best produce, cleaned it meticulously, and packed it with attention to every detail. Every basket he filled carried not only vegetables, but the hopes and dreams of his family, the sweat of years of hard labor, and the courage he had cultivated through setbacks. The physical work was demanding, but the emotional pressure was heavier. He remembered the skepticism of his neighbors, the doubts of the rival farmer, and the countless times he had questioned himself. Yet, each memory strengthened his resolve. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the emotional turning point he had been building toward. As he transported the baskets to town, he felt a mix of fear and determination. The journey was longer than usual, the roads rough, and the weight of the baskets almost unbearable. But with each step, he repeated a silent mantra: persistence, courage, vision. The contrast between his past days of small, unnoticed effort and this moment of real opportunity could not have been more vivid. For the first time, he felt that his hard work might finally be recognized. The thought sent a shiver of excitement and anticipation through him. He imagined the faces of the buyers, the possibility of fair prices, and the future he could build. When he arrived, the buyer inspected the produce carefully. Raj held his breath, remembering all the times he had failed or fallen short. Each vegetable, carefully grown and chosen, represented not just food, but his dedication, intelligence, and vision. The buyer smiled, satisfied, and placed an even larger order than Raj had hoped for. Relief and joy washed over him. The emotional tension that had been building for months exploded into a feeling of triumph and pride. Raj realized that this was more than financial success. It was validation of his courage, his planning, and his belief in himself. Returning to the village, Raj felt lighter, as if a weight he had carried for years had been lifted. But he also understood that this was only the beginning. The success brought new challenges, managing larger orders, coordinating with other farmers, and maintaining the quality that had won him the buyer's trust. The responsibility was enormous, but the contrast between the despair of earlier months and this moment of opportunity gave him confidence. Raj knew he had to continue learning, planning, and adapting. The journey was far from over, but he had reached the pivotal moment that would define the next phase of his life. That evening, Raj and Annika celebrated quietly, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. They remembered the days of struggle, the moments of doubt, and the small victories that had kept hope alive. Each challenge had taught them resilience, and each setback had sharpened their determination. Raj realized that success was not a sudden gift, but the result of years of careful effort, courage, and belief. The emotional turning point was not only the buyer's order, but the deeper understanding that he had earned this moment through perseverance and vision. The news of Raj's success soon spread through the village. Some neighbors were astonished, others envious, and a few skeptical. The rival farmer who had mocked him now watched with a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Raj felt a complex mix of emotions: pride, relief, and humility. He knew that success could attract attention and criticism alike. Yet the contrast between those who had doubted him and the reality of his achievement strengthened his confidence. He realized that staying true to his vision and maintaining integrity would guide him through the new challenges that awaited. As weeks passed, Raj began thinking bigger. He explored ideas to expand, such as forming a cooperative with other local farmers, investing in better equipment, and creating a reliable supply chain to reach more buyers. Every plan carried risk, yet each also promised growth and stability. He reflected on the emotional journey that had brought him here. The long days in the fields, the small market trips, the skepticism of neighbors, and the quiet support of Annika. The contrasts of despair and hope, doubt and determination, failure and triumph were clear markers of how far he had come. He understood that the turning point had not been just a single event, but the cumulative effect of learning, persistence, and courage. Late one night, Raj sat by the fire outside his hut, thinking about the journey ahead. The stars twinkled above, and he felt a profound sense of connection to the world around him. He realized that every obstacle he had faced, every challenge he had overcome, and every small success had prepared him for this moment. The emotional turning point was complete. He had transformed from a struggling farmer into a determined entrepreneur with a vision for the future. The contrasts of his life, past hardships versus present possibilities, fear versus courage, doubt versus confidence, created a depth of understanding and a sense of purpose that would guide him for years to come. With the first successful order behind him, Raj felt a new energy coursing through his days. The market trips became routine, but now they carried purpose and meaning. Each basket of vegetables he sold was no longer just food, it was proof that persistence, courage, and vision could change a life. Raj realized that success was not a sudden stroke of luck, but the result of years of careful effort, learning from failures, and remaining steadfast despite doubt. The contrast between the struggles of the past and the growing achievements of the present was more vivid than ever, and it inspired him to keep moving forward. Raj's small success began to ripple through the village. Other farmers watched with curiosity and a hint of hope. Some approached him, asking for advice and guidance. Raj welcomed them, sharing what he had learned about selecting crops, approaching buyers, and planning carefully. Slowly, a sense of community began to form. Neighbors who had once doubted him now acknowledged his determination, and even the rival farmer offered a nod of respect. These moments of recognition were deeply meaningful, not because of personal pride, but because they reflected the value of hard work and integrity. Raj understood that true success involved not only personal gain, but uplifting others around him. Back at home, life felt fuller and more secure. Annika helped organize the farm and the small market operations, and together they celebrated each small milestone. Their children watched with wide eyes, inspired by their parents' dedication and creativity. The family's bond strengthened as they shared both the responsibilities and joys of their growing venture. Raj reflected on the contrasts that had defined his journey, the poverty of earlier days versus the emerging stability of his family, the skepticism of neighbors versus their growing support, and his own doubts versus the courage that had carried him forward. Every contrast had shaped him into a wiser and more resilient person. The business continued to grow gradually. Raj reinvested profits into better seeds, new tools, and expanding his small cooperative. The cooperative allowed other farmers to access larger markets, increasing both profits and quality of life for the village community. Raj realized that true growth was never just about personal gain. It was about creating opportunities for others. He had transformed from a lone farmer struggling against odds into a leader whose vision inspired hope and action. The emotional fulfillment of seeing others succeed alongside him was more rewarding than any financial gain. This moment reinforced the life lesson he had learned. Perseverance, integrity, and collaboration could create lasting impact. One quiet evening, Raj sat outside his hut, looking over the fields that had once seemed limiting and now felt full of potential. He remembered the long days of manual labor, the sleepless nights worrying about crops, and the doubts that had almost discouraged him. Yet, each struggle had prepared him for this moment. He understood that challenges were not obstacles, but opportunities to grow stronger, smarter, and more patient. The contrast between his early despair and his current hope gave him perspective. Raj smiled, feeling grateful for the journey that had taught him resilience, courage, and the importance of vision. The village slowly adapted to this new rhythm. Farmers worked together, supporting one another, sharing knowledge, and building trust. Raj's story became an example of what could be achieved through determination and strategic thinking. The emotional turning point had not only changed his life, but had started a ripple effect that would influence the entire community. Children who once thought farming was a life of struggle now dreamed of innovation and enterprise. The village had transformed not overnight, but through consistent effort, learning, and courage. The same values Raj had embodied throughout his journey. Raj also reflected on the personal lessons he had learned. He realized that fear of failure could only be overcome by action, and that risk-taking, though frightening, was essential for growth. He learned to listen to advice, but not let doubt of others deter him. He discovered that patience was just as important as ambition, and that small, consistent steps often led to larger results than sudden leaps. These insights shaped not only his business decisions, but also his character, making him a more thoughtful, resilient, and compassionate person. The emotional depth of these realizations gave meaning to his journey and inspired his future vision. Finally, Raj looked toward the horizon, imagining the possibilities ahead. He understood that life would always present challenges, but he now had the tools, knowledge, and courage to face them. His journey from a struggling farmer to a community leader and entrepreneur had taught him that persistence, integrity, and vision could overcome even the most difficult circumstances. The contrast between past limitations and present opportunity underscored the story's moral. Hope, courage, and steady effort could transform a life, even in the face of doubt and hardship. Raj felt content, fulfilled, and ready to embrace the next chapter of his story. As the sun set behind the hills, Raj held Anika's hand and reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From long days of labor and uncertainty to market successes and a growing business, every step had built the foundation of a new life. The village, once skeptical, now celebrated the changes that determination and courage could bring. Raj's story left a lasting impression. The importance of dreaming big, acting decisively, and maintaining faith in oneself. The emotional journey, from struggle and doubt to triumph and community impact, created a satisfying conclusion that would inspire anyone listening, especially English learners seeking both understanding and motivation. And so, Raj's journey shows us that with patience, courage, and determination, even the smallest beginnings can grow into something remarkable. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to learn, improve, and take one step closer to our dreams. What part of Raj's story inspired you the most? Tell us in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. If you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English listening skills while discovering more inspiring stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Listen and Learn English, and click the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Remember, every day is a chance to grow your English and your dreams. See you in the next story.